My first year at Juilliard, the all of the organ students, they just admired her so much, the way that piano students admired Vladimir Horowitz. And as I said, the Duruflés played in New York my first year, and it was just an extraordinary occasion. So I decided between my master's degree and my doctoral studies at Juilliard to spend the winter in Paris. And I wrote the Duruflés, and I got back a letter from Mr. Duruflé saying, yes, we accept you. But then their automobile accident occurred and everything stopped. Eventually, she wrote me a letter and she said, Mr. Keene, I'm so sorry, but we're just not well enough to resume our teaching schedule. But here is my private phone number. If you come to Paris to work with another teacher, call me and perhaps you could play one of my husband's pieces for me. Well, of course, I was very disappointed, but I went anyway. And I did go to study with two other people. The first night I was in Paris, you have to understand, I was 23 years old. I'd never been to Europe before. And I'd heard about all these places in Paris connected with French organ music. And I walked everywhere. And I ended up around 6:30 in the evening in front of the Duruflés church, and the door was open. And so I walked in, and the people were just leaving the daily said mass. And there she was, Madame Duruflé. Madame Duruflé went to mass every single day. The only time she didn't go to mass was when she was on a concert tour, and she figured God would forgive her. But she was there that night, and I recognized her, of course, and I went up and spoke to her and introduced myself. And she was very, very gracious. But she said, I'm so sorry, I'm just not well enough to teach, but maybe if you come back in a couple of weeks, you could play one of my husband's pieces for me. So I went ahead and started studying with two other magnificent teachers. And meanwhile, I found out at what masses she played. And she played, and I went to every single one of them. Saturday night, 2 on Sunday. I even checked when there were weddings, and she played most of those. And so I was constantly there, and I never heard playing like that in my life. When she played organ pieces, it was the best performance of each piece I had ever heard on any recording, anytime. I mean, it was like you had Arthur Rubinstein or Horowitz playing the piano in your church service. It was beyond belief. And each Sunday, she would play at the end of the service an improvised postlude. And the fire and intensity of these improvised postludes just was more than I can possibly express. The people would stand there staring at the organ loft, expecting flames or smoke or something. At any rate, after a couple of weeks, and she saw me there at every service, she came up to me and she said, Mr. Keene, you're so faithful and so respectful. Would you like to play a piece for me of my husband? And I said, yes. And so I practiced all week, and I arrived. I was going to play for her Duruflé's Prelude and Fugue on the Name of Allah, which was one of my signature pieces. And so I was extremely nervous, but she had this way of making you instantly comfortable when you were in her presence. And so I played the piece, and when it was over, she said to me, you are one of the most gifted young organists I've ever heard. You can have all the lessons you want with me. Can you imagine how I felt when she said this to me? And I was overwhelmed. Of course, I didn't sleep that night, and And she said, but don't tell anybody you're having lessons with me because I'm not teaching. And she took me under her wing week after week, hour after hour, and worked on all this French repertory with me. And one of the greatest things that she gave me was she had inside of her this intensity of emotion, this humongous personality. The old French school, they referred to this as la flamme sacrée, the sacred flame inside you. The current generation of French people, I don't think they even know what that phrase means, but she had that sacred flame and it was turned up high, let me tell you. But she taught me that if you have this enormous emotion inside of you, it must be balanced by enormous intellect and discretion. You must study the composer's score incredibly, know everything in the score, be faithful to everything that he wrote or she wrote, and don't deviate. And the stronger the emotion, the stronger the discipline must be. And that characterized her playing. And that's one of the things that she gave to me during her time with me. As I mentioned, that we had this 1989 Duruflé festival, and I spent a whole month, January of 1989, figuring out a letter to write her to encourage her to come out of retirement and start playing again. Her husband had been dead for 3 years and she still hadn't played a concert. And one day, I waited months, but finally at 6 o'clock in the morning one day, a phone call woke me up. I was furious and I picked up the phone, hello, and on the other end of the line was, bonjour, Didi, c'est Marie-Madeleine Duruflé, bonjour. And, I woke up as fast as I could, and she told me that she was going to come and she was going to play. Well, it became a huge event because she was making her comeback to recital playing. And she played 3 tours in the United States after that. It was really an amazing time. Now, this publication, this bulletin, just arrived in the mail just a few days ago. It's from the Duruflé Foundation. I'm on the international committee of that, and they send me these things. And this particular one, just by coincidence, was about her tours in the United States. And so, sure enough, I look in there. I don't think these pictures you can see very well, but oh my word, this is such a mess. But there she is, and that's me. I'm sorry the picture is so bad. And on the bottom of the other page, you can see me with some certificate they gave her, and she had a wonderful last chapter of her life. And the final tour ended in New York City and her final performance was at Church of the Ascension. And she stayed here right in my apartment with me while she was in New York. It was this woman, still the memories are very, very strong, as you can tell.